You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast. My name's Andrew Mackay-Smith, and I have a very special interview subject for you on this particular instalment. It's Miss Lucie V. She was in Thunderstick. She recorded the album from 2017. One of my favourite albums from that year, by the way. The stellar Something Wicked This Way Comes. And now she appears on a brand new outfit. Their name is the Kentish Spires. They've got a superb offering. Just released. She was kind enough to send me a CD in the mail. The Last Harvest is the name of that. So we talk all about her work with the Kentish Spires, also her time in Thunderstick, and a lot of other things, actually. She's a wonderful interview subject and an extraordinary vocalist, so really hope you enjoyed this conversation. Here we go. How's things?
Yeah, good, thank you. Yes. Hi, nice to speak with you. No, all good here. I work from home, so I've got an office that's set up for video conferencing and teleconferencing and stuff. So it's dead easy for me. I'm just looking at the charge on my headset, though. It's only got one bar there, but it should be all right for about half an hour, I reckon.
Okay, sweet. No worries. What do you do? What do you do for your day job that keeps you at home?
What do? I am the voice of BMW roadside assistance.
That's cool.
So, yeah.
Awesome.
I'm actually just about to leave. I'm changing jobs, but no, for the last 18 months, if you break down in a BMW and you press the SOS button, chances are you get my voice on the end of the phone. So it's breakdown assistance. So I coordinate technicians and recovery trucks and hire cars and all that kind of stuff and rescue people. Yeah.
That sounds like an awesome job, actually. I mean, you can work from home. Fun. It's the trend these days, because I do work from home too. I used to work for a telecommunications company that's similar to BT. Our version of BT is called Telstra.
Yeah.
The stress of the job, to be honest with you, was killing me, and I've got a family and 2 kids, so I just decided that I'd had enough and it was time to forge a new path, and that's led me to going back to university to get a degree.
What are you studying?
Creative writing with a bent toward journalism, so it's not strictly a journalism degree, but look, I wanted to go as broad as I possibly could, because really I like doing all of it, from video work to podcasting to writing to hopefully one day I want to write a novel. I've been in the workforce for 20 odd years or so. I'm 40, so I thought enough's enough, and I'm going to be probably earning a fraction of what I used to earn, but at least I'm going to be doing something that doesn't feel like working.
That, I think, is the secret, to be honest, Andrew. For me, it's not about money. It's about that work-life balance. It's about being happy. And the problem is, when you're a creative or a musical kind of person, finding a way to make money and fit in with the rest of society and the system, that's tricky. So I tend to end up working some sort of office job and then doing music in my spare time. But I started working for BMW because it was working from home. I thought, this will fit around my music commitments really well, and it has been doing. But recently it's turned into all evenings and weekends, and it's got really tricky. So I'm leaving this, and I'm actually going back to a Monday to Friday 9 to 5 in an office. So that I can free up my evenings and my weekends again. So for the music, so it's gone the other way now. But it's a tough one finding the balance. But I definitely say less money, more happiness, more time.
It's interesting though. You sound like me in that you're professionally inclined as well. And let's face it, a lot of musicians aren't like that. They're sort of all or nothing into the music. But for people like you and I that do we live in both camps, in that you sound like you're a confident person, you're articulate, so you can survive in a corporate environment, but at the same time, you're clearly an extraordinarily gifted musician. And
thank you.
I'm nowhere near as gifted as you are, so I sort of struggle along in doing what I'm doing. But I straddle the both worlds too, but I sometimes sort of think, am I a musician masquerading in the corporate world, or I used to think that, or am I, some guy who should just devote my whole life to corporate life and just play music when I can? But the truth is, I'm both.
Well, that's what they said in school. They said to me, "You're so academic. No, you can't study music. That's just throwing your life away." I thought, "Oh, cheers, guys." I studied them anyway. I went off and did performing arts at college and came out with a performing arts qualification and thought, what shall I do now then? And then went and worked in an office. So, I've been in business development. I've been a PA. So, corporate world is what I know for sure. But then you try and get away from that in your spare time and rock out a bit.
What inspired you to develop this extraordinarily accomplished vocal of yours, though? Because I've honestly, I've been a lifelong music fan, but I've never quite heard anything like it. It's very powerful, and your voice sounds equally at home belting out something rather heavy, like some of the Thunderstick material, or even heavier.
Sure.
I actually had this vision of you fronting some Metallica numbers, and I think you do
Oh,
a James
yeah.
Hetfield really well. But then,
Oh, I love that.
yeah, I could see you, and I was just wishing you were over here, so I could think, bloody hell, let's try and do something, because I'm a musician, as I've mentioned, play bass, play
Right.
guitar, and it's very hard to find a good vocalist who really knows how to do it, really knows how to stand in front of an audience
Belt it
and
out.
stare them down and say, I'm here to entertain you this evening, kind of like what Pink does. And not a
Yes,
massive fan of Pink,
yeah.
but you know what I'm saying. It's
No, I know exactly what you mean. People look at me. I'm 5'1". I'm a woman, and they say, "Oh, stand about 6 inches away from the microphone, love. Would you? I think we need to make sure we pick up your voice." And I'm like, "You've not heard me sing yet, but I'm going to stand about 3 foot back from your mic, all right? Otherwise,
Yeah.
I'm going to break your equipment now."
Yeah.
But I suppose. I mean, I had some vocal lessons from my mum. My mum is a folk singer. And so she's from the old school approach of not using a microphone and just standing up in a bar and belting it out. So I suppose from an early age, I was taught about diaphragm control, about breath control. But then I'm really self-taught after that. So James Hetfield is a great reference. He's one of the vocalists that I'd say I've tried to imitate over the years. I tend to get my inspiration from male vocalists more than female vocalists. So James Hetfield, Chad Kroeger from Nickelback, the way he belts it out, he's
yeah.
another one that I'm a
Okay.
big fan of. Eddie Vedder, Pearl Jam.
Yeah, I can hear
Is
that.
another one that I'd cite.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are my kind of influences. So I've looked up to people that really get that gravel and that punch behind it, and sing straight from your gut, and you're belting it out. So that's what I've always tried to imitate. I've always wanted to have male vocal cords, I think. But then you also get stuff like Alanis Morissette, and I don't know if the Cranberries ever got to Australia. They were
Dolores,
an Irish
yeah,
band.
yeah, massive,
Dolores,
yeah, massive.
sure. So stuff like that is an influence as well. That kind of slightly kind of gentle, lilty, kind of sobby kind of break in your voice, that sort of stuff. So these are all the techniques I used to try and go and practice.
But there's still nobody out there like you, because I was listening to this beautiful CD that you sent me, and I really got to thank you for this, because it's such a well-packaged
I'm glad. Yes.
thing. The whole
Danny
thing,
Chang's
yeah.
other half, Helen, is responsible for sending all our publicity out, and she does a lovely job, doesn't she?
Yeah, that's very nice of her to do that. And look, the way that the beautiful photographs, there's a picture taken from behind you here looking toward a tree. I'm just describing this for people listening.
Sure.
Because I know people stream these things or go to Bandcamp and listen to it and don't get the physical copy, but there's a lovely picture of you on the back there with 2 swords. And then there's another, when you open up the gatefold, there's a picture of your profile there with sunlight coming down. And then you've got this beautiful sleeve here that you can take out, which has liner notes from all of you in the band. Really nice photos of each of you that really puts a face to the musician, literally. And comments about what inspires you all and why you're creating this beautiful music on this CD, which I was really taken with, believe me, because I don't know you well enough, musically speaking, to say you should be doing this, but I just hear you as such an accomplished vocalist, and you've gone from doing the Thunderstick stuff, which is rock and roll, to this stuff here, which veers from, I don't understand enough again about this scene that's called the Canterbury prog scene, but definitely get the early Genesis references there. But there's a lot of jazz in there too. I was hearing jazz.
There is. So, a couple of things you've mentioned there, I have to say, is Paul Hornsby's fault. So, no, he's our lead instrumentalist. So he's the guy playing all the flutes, the sax, the recorders, and he's a fantastically accomplished musician. He's also a fantastically accomplished photographer. The photos you're looking at there, that's his work. So we were lucky enough to have him in the band to help us out with the album artwork as well as being our lead musician. And he's a session musician, but he also has a background in jazz. He's a musical director for lots of different jazz ensembles in Wales, works out of Cardiff Millennium Centre. Can't get my words out this morning. So there's a definite jazz influence from him there. The other band members now, forgive me, they're quite a bit older than me, so their musical influences are quite different from mine. So they do remember early Genesis from the first time around. Yeah. I remember them from looking through my parents' record collection.
Likewise.
So the Genesis bits I understood, the Peter Gabriel type stuff, I get that. Yeah. They also cite people like Caravan and Matching Mole, Camel, who were a sort of early Canterbury scene prog bands that they used to listen to when they were growing up. For me, I came into this and I thought, well, what influences do I know that I can bring to this? Well, Pink Floyd, for sure. Dark Side of the Moon, I love. Roger Waters' own work, I love. So that's one aspect of prog I can kind of tap into for this. And folk music, because I grew up obviously with my mum being a folk singer, and I was performing on the folk circuit myself as a fiddle player, so I was listening to lots of English folk, and you get lots of there was a stream of like electric folk bands around in the sort of late 80s, early 90s over here. One was Steel Eye Span that I was a big fan of. So that's the kind of stuff that I've used as my influence for recording this. But quite nicely, I've seen other interviews comment on how my vocals are still very rock. So it doesn't matter what I do, I never fully get away from that rock sound.
Yeah, I think it's just the power, the fact that you've got such
it is.
Have you got a 3-octave range? I imagine you would.
Pretty big, yeah. I mean, because I spend a lot of time trying to sing stuff that guys normally sing, because that's what I like to do, and then I can get up into some higher registers. I can't sing as high as a lot of female vocalists, but I can get pretty high when I want to. Yeah, there's probably about 3.5 octaves there.
Yeah, and what inspired the shift from Thunderstick into doing this sort of music?
Okay, well, I was asked, really. I mean, what I do is I call myself a musical tool. I'm a vocalist for hire. If you want me to sing it, I'll give it a go. So I won the audition to front Thunderstick and was brought in to do that. And the project didn't go as expected. It was a real shame. Barry Purkis at Thunderstick himself, he got quite ill just after the album was recorded. He had to go in for a knee operation, which being a drummer was a bit of a big deal. Gigs were cancelled, and the whole thing just kind of fell apart a bit. So I ended up being paid for my work on the album and calling it a day there. And he's gone on and formed a different band to do a few live gigs.
Yeah, I noticed that. It was just last couple of days. I think I'm on the Facebook page, and I think
that's right. Yeah,
posted. Yeah, and
they've just done their first gig back. Yeah,
and I interviewed Vixen, who is doing the live work, so singing your material and the older stuff. Yeah.
Very different style to me. I've heard of what they're doing, and I mean they're all based in the same area, so it's going to be much easier for them to rehearse to get this back off the ground. You know,
you're a hard act to follow. I said as much to her. No disrespect intended toward Vixen. I'm sure she's very capable, but bloody hell, the vocals that you've put on Something Wicked This Way Comes. I don't think I'd want to be. I think you'd need to be up there. God, I'm paying you some big compliments here, but you know, you're talking about Freddie Mercury level of stuff.
Oh, wow.
You know, I think Freddie's.
I admit I didn't put an easy vocal on that album. I really did belt it out, you know. So good luck to what she does with it. You know, I'm sure she's going to do her own take on it, put her own style to it. The stuff I was covering, I was re-recording what Jodie Valentine had done 30 years previous, and so what I was doing was very different from Jodie's take on it. Vixen will be different again. So that ended not really on good terms, unfortunately, and the studio where we'd recorded it is the Piggery in Herefordshire, which is Danny Chang's studio. He was the producer for Thunderstick's album, and he and the original investor, the seed investor that backed Thunderstick, Phil Warren, put their heads together and said, look, let's do something we want to do. Let's try and salvage something positive from this. You know, we really put our energy into Thunderstick's album. It's not gone as planned. Let's do something else, and let's see if Lucie V fancies trying something different. Well, Danny Chang, Phil Warren, they're both big fans of the Canterbury scene. They both grew up in Kent, and so they looked around and they found a drummer that Danny had worked with prior to this. Paul Hornsby was another musician that Danny's had in for session work for other productions he's done. Rick Loveridge, he's a keyboard player from the local village who'd just moved to the area and was looking around for saying, you know, anyone up for any kind of musical project. And so it all kind of fitted together from there. So they said, right, well, let's do this. Let's use the Piggery Studios and record an album of the kind of music that we loved growing up. And let's ask Lucie V back in to see if she fancies turning her hand to prog. And I said, yeah, sure, completely different from last time, but I'm up for the challenge. Let's see what happens.
It reminds me of when Dave Mustaine left Metallica and started Megadeth in some ways because, oh, look, you know, like as an old school metalhead, right, there's this thing for fans to diss Dave and Megadeth and he should have stayed in Metallica, but it's like, for God's sakes, guys, I mean, this is 35 years after the fact or something. I mean, for God's sakes, we're all well into our 40s now. Let's get over it. But the point is, you've got two wonderful bands to listen to, and it might not have ended well with Thunderstick, but because it ended, we've now got you in the Kentish Spires, and we've now got these two fantastic albums, and I can tell you for a fact I'll be listening to both for years on end because I haven't stopped listening to the Thunderstick album.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah, so and it's principally your vocal. I think your vocal and what Barry did on the drums. I hadn't heard anybody playing drums like what he's doing probably ever. He's got this shuffle thing going on, and I thought your vocal matched to it. They were the two. I like to pick out characteristics. Now, there's a bit of a simpler dynamic with Thunderstick. This one here, I've listened to this CD now. My kids call it our morning music, so we put it on in the mornings.
Oh, wow.
I've actually, because I've been doing this now about 12 months or so, people have been sending me CDs from all over the world, and I haven't had a CD player in about 10 years. But I had to buy one because I've got all these wonderful CDs, and I'm not my Apple Mac doesn't even have an optical drive, so I had no choice.
Oh, right. No, my computer doesn't anymore either. Because I said, oh gosh, we're releasing this on CD. Is this obviously there is a digital download available? You can go onto Bandcamp. You can either buy a CD copy to be mailed out, or you can buy a digital download. And I thought, being 35 myself, you know, I'm in the digital age. I can't remember the last time I bought a CD. I thought, oh, downloads are the way. But actually, I found very, very much with the prog audience, it's about quality. They like a physical copy. We've sold a lot more CD copies than we have downloads so far. So there's definitely a want. There's a need out there for a CD copy, for something physical these days, which is nice because we get to send them the little booklet with it as well then, and it's a whole package that you can look through, and I think some people do appreciate that. But I know where you're coming from. I'm of a generation where I tend to just put on YouTube or SoundCloud
or Apple Music or
something. Yeah.
You just sort of stick it on. But one thing it did highlight to me, because I actually tested this. So I've got an iPhone X or an iPhone 10, whatever they're called, and I'd been listening to it through the Bandcamp app until, because I did, remember I emailed you and I said, I can't get the download, but I found it on the Bandcamp app. I couldn't see it on the SoundCloud thing, but I found it on the Bandcamp app. So I'd been listening to that in and around the house and in the car, and I thought, this sounds great. Then when I got the CD, and I've got really good speakers that I play in our hi-fi system, if you like, and it's a Monster HD Clarity speakers. So they're powered speakers, and I've got a Denon CD player, like something from, this is what I've had to do. It's from 1994. I just bought it for like $80 Australian from a guy down the road. But I put it on, and the difference in sonic clarity for this style of music was really important because it just comes right out of the speakers and bounces around the room. And I think to add to your comment there about prog fans liking physical copy, they get what music should sound like, and especially this music should sound like.
It's musicians' music, isn't it? It's it's not quite as accessible, perhaps, as kind of other forms of rock music, because it does tend to go off on one. You'll get like we've got one track on there that's 13 minutes long. The Last Harvest.
Yeah.
It kind of just devolves into, you've got jazz moments, you've got bits that sound a bit like a sonic car crash. It gets uncomfortable and then kind of unwinds itself, and you come out of the mist and you're in this kind of serene, gentle kind of part. It takes you on a journey, and I would say more musicians' music than some other forms of rock for sure. Yeah, audiophile stuff.
Look, as a parent, oh God, I'm going to sound like an old man here, but I was taking the kids to school, so just let me paint the picture. So here in Queensland, I drive through the cane fields to take the kids to school, and they go, "Oh, we want to listen to new music," because I've been having Chemical Brothers on and stuff that I like, and we put on Tove Lo, and the swearing and crap that goes on through it. And my kids are 5 and 3. And I can hear it. It's like when I had on Iggy Azalea Mo Bounce and bounce on the motherfucking house, it says. And I'm trying to turn it off, and because they go and repeat it at school and say that that's the music I'm listening to. It's not that I'm such I'm not a church going, guy who can't handle stuff, but I was like, oh my God, all of this stuff my 5-year-old likes and they talk about in the schoolyard has all this swearing through it, and they think this is the stuff that I'm listening to. So I'm really going, come on, because I call the Kentish Spires Lucie. I called all the bands of the people that I talk to the CDs. So some of the other music might be Arch Enemy, because I've spoken to Alyssa White Gloves. I've said that's Alyssa. They know Arch Enemy as Alyssa, so they know the Kentish Spires and Thunderstick as Lucie. And so I say, can we put on Lucie instead? And they're like, oh, yeah, okay, we can put on Lucie. So I'm slowly winning them over. But my point there would be that you're never too young to listen to meaningful music that has lyrics that are appropriate even. And as I say, I'm not saying that because I like some crude music, believe me, I do. But Jesus, there's a fine line between taking your kids to school and listening to Tove Lo saying fuck shit and all these other sort of words, and your wonderful music with its prog sensibilities and and especially clarity when
it's a more mature record.
definitely. But I'm trying with the kids. I am trying with the kids, but they do like it. I've got to tell you, they do like the melody and the fact that your vocal sits over the top of everything. And in clarity, how you've got the refrain clarity. When you do that, they're walking around the house singing that. So I'm getting through to the.
Oh, that's great. I love it. Yes, Danny, when he's mixing my vocal, he does say that it's my diction. I was received pronunciation, so I've got one of these kind of BBC English accents that I've been taught, and it means that you can mix my voice right down. You can almost lose it in the band, but because every T comes out, every D, every S, you can still hear what I'm saying. So they like that. You can try to lose my vocal in the mix, but it's difficult because the diction's so good.
You'd have to be a really bad engineer to do that, I'd say. Basically, your voice is one of those voices where you just get out of its way. You just let it do its thing. Yeah. And I know I've got I do the mixing. I don't do it these days, but I've done a lot of live mixing. And your vocal would be the one that you build the sound around. You don't get in the way of your voice. You make sure that the bass drum, it's a typical scenario, you make sure that the bass drum volume matches the volume of your vocal, for example, and then you just make sure everything sits around it. I mean, so for example, if the bass was too loud, I imagine it would be really anathema to your voice, for example. Do you find that when you're playing live?
You know what? I haven't noticed so much. So long as I can hear myself on stage, which I find is a bit of a luxury, actually being able to hear yourself properly, then I'm fine. I mean, though, to be honest, the majority of my live experience is actually in a wedding band, singing Come On Delilah to drunk newlyweds up and down the country. So sound quality wasn't really something I was listening for so much when last time I was out doing live work. That'll all change in September, though, when we've got a couple of gigs coming up for the Kentish Spires. So, I will be trying to definitely hone in, but no, I tend to think so long as I can hear my voice, I'm all right. I leave it up to the sound guy to make sure that the people out the front get the correct mix. And I never worry too much about what I can hear on stage. But it's just so funny hearing these compliments about my voice, Andrew, because I've been thinking about this recently. You see, I was bullied the whole way through school for being the posh kid, the one that sounded posh. I had elocution lessons, and then I was thrown into a state school. But it's only dawned on me recently that people seem to love my singing voice. I'm paid in my day job to speak. They obviously hire me for what I sound like for BMW, and it's just made me think, actually, screw you kids in school. My voice isn't that
nasty,
bad.
Though. Can't kids just nasty though? With someone who's got such a wonderful talent like what you've got, I think kids are just chimpanzees overall. Like the kids that we send our kids to a Lutheran school, so there's. Jesus, anybody listening, they come from good backgrounds, these kids, so we don't see a lot of it, any of it, to be honest. My daughter's only in the first year of school, so we call it prep here in Queensland, not kindy, but prep. So I haven't really seen a lot of it, but there's just, sorry, this is an aside to what we're talking about, but there's a young lady recently out in rural Queensland who was the face of Akubra hats, those famous Australian hats, those cowboy hats, I suppose you'd call them. Mm-hmm. She killed herself because she got bullied so bad. And I went through a southern boarding school myself where bullying was so rife, you didn't even notice it. Now, you know how you hear, I've heard that, I've borrowed that saying, I've heard other people say it, but there was such a pecking order of where you sat, you didn't notice that if you just knew to stay in your box, you didn't go outside of it. And I was musically inclined too, but I liked heavy metal. So I was called the Bogan or the Westie, because I went through a posh school, like a private school, it's a boarding school.
Right.
Where I probably would have been better off, to be honest with you, going to a regular state school and just finding my own clique in that regard. But because I was the only guy in the entire school that listened to death metal and heavy metal, but I didn't care either. It was I didn't look like it either. I just listened to it because you couldn't look like it at a school like that. But to hear that you had a rough time is, what do you say? It's like it's their own kids' own. Lack of confidence, and I'm trying to refine the right words here, but a couple of them are escaping me. But it's
about picking out somebody who's different, isn't it? I think, and perhaps that's what people pick up on in my singing voice now is the fact it's distinctive. It is different, but it's different in a good way. It's not something we pick on people for when we get out of school.
No, it's an extraordinary voice, and credit to you for keeping the faith through what would have been some difficult years, and they're tough years. I mean, I was talking to a lady who I did some hypnotherapy with, and she made a comment, I think, that you don't so much get through you don't go through your teenage years, you survive them.
Yeah, for sure.
You survive them, and it's incredible, isn't it, that it doesn't matter where you are in the world, there's all sort of pretty much the same pressures when you're a teenager.
For sure, yeah. But singing's one of those great releases. It's playing any instrument. It's a great way to get out your emotion and just feel better about it all. But actually, I didn't sing a note throughout my 20s. I just worked in a corporate environment. I completely gave up on trying to get anything musical off the ground. It was only 3 years ago when I started re-advertising for some singing work that all this started. So credit to Barry Purkis putting an advert out there. This wouldn't have happened without him. So
indeed, but that's extraordinary under itself, because I know I used to be in descant choirs as a treble, and then went treble, alto, tenor, didn't get to a bass, but I think I stayed as a tenor. At school, and dropped it when I left, of course, because I thought it was stupid. That's my own, as you tend to do. No, I'll just play an instrument.
As you do.
Learn how to sing.
Yeah.
And now I'm so frustrated with myself because I can barely sing and play at the same time. I can just get a few backing vocals out, and I can sing when I'm not playing. But trying to get the two going at the same time, bass guitar and singing at the same time, oh my God, yeah.
One of the reasons why I kind of put down instruments, I mean, I still play violin. I've played violin since I was 8 years old, and I got up to grade 6 in classical music. And then I toured the UK playing bluegrass, American kind of old-time country bluegrass fiddle for a few years as a teenager. But I used to play a bit of guitar. I'm a rocker at heart. I grew up on Metallica and System of a Down and stuff like that. So I learned to strum a guitar. I had a bass, used to muck about playing a bit of rock bass. But I realised that it's impossible, I think, to put 100% commitment into your vocals when you're playing an instrument. It's impossible to give 100% of your time to your guitar playing when you're trying to sing over the top. So I actually made the conscious decision to put down instruments so that I could be a front woman and jump around the stage like a nutcase with a microphone in my hand, and leave playing guitar, playing bass up to people who are actually genuinely passionate about their craft and really want to do it.
Yeah.
So I went the other way with it, yeah.
But it's sorry. The point I was trying to make earlier was that to not sing for a decade or thereabouts and still retain this enormous voice that you've got that has the range that it has, you've got an extraordinary gift there. Please don't ever give it up and just keep doing what you're doing with whoever it is that might pick you up, because you've got. I'm not psychic. I'm just putting this out there. You've got an extraordinary career ahead of you, and
I hope so. I hope so. I'm really giving it my all this time. At age 35, time I actually pulled my finger out and tried to be a singer this time around. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going to work out for you, because I can't see anybody, certainly nobody in the public eye. I have no doubt there are session people out there that might have a similar talent to what you've got, but just keep doing what you're doing, and I just look forward to you being on so many excellent releases, whether it be with this wonderful Kentish Spires outfit or whoever it might be in the future. Just keep going.
Thanks. Yeah, we are thinking about a second album already. A couple of the band members are already starting to write for that. But yeah, I say yes to any project that comes along. So who knows what you're going to hear me singing next? If they think I can maybe give it a shot, I will do.
Yeah, I'd love to see you do a really good hard rock project, like heavier than Thunderstick, like not a thrash thing. I'm trying to give you the right descriptor without going too overboard here, but Dee Snider recently did a heavy metal album with the wonderful Jamie Jaster from Hatebreed, and you probably listen to Jamie Jaster's podcast. Okay. And check that out on Spotify or what have you. I'm pretty sure it's been released. I get a lot of these albums because I'm on a promotions list and for reviews and interviews and the like, of course. And I've had a listen to it. It's a cracking album, and I was actually thinking your voice would suit a lot of the material that's on that. So yeah, and that's Dee Snider, who's got a hell of a voice as well. So have a listen to that album. I think it's called For the Love of Metal or For In the Name of Metal or something. It's a really obvious metal title, like a Manowar style metal title. Sure. So that's another band whose music, that style, I think you could really do. Not a power metal thing, but a real gnarly heavy metal style rooted in traditional metal, but not like a yesterday's music either, if you know what I'm saying. Modern stuff.
Yeah, sounds quite fresh. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not really a nostalgia act person, to be frank with you, and that's what I liked about the Thunderstick album. It didn't sound like it was trying to be like that. That's why it surprised me so much that it was effectively songs that were written 35 odd years ago or so, brought into 2017. Because it sounded so fresh to my ears, but it's probably just because it sounded so different to everything else that was being released around it. And I was getting,
yeah.
A heap of deathcore and metalcore stuff. But I'll finish my point. Definitely listen to that Dee Snider album and just let me know what you think over Messenger or whatever.
I will. Yeah, I've made a note. I've written it down. I'll have a listen.
All right, I better let you go. It's been a wonderful conversation. It's great to finally chat to you. I've been, as you know,
no props, Andrew. Thank you. I've been using your review from my Thunderstick album as one of my flagship reviews for the past 12 months. So it's really lovely to have a chat with you.
Oh, cool. Yeah, and sorry I've got to get onto that and change the spelling of your name. You know, it's autocorrect that does it, and I just don't change it.
I don't notice. You can call me anything so long as it's not rude.
But no, look, thoroughly deserved. That was an album that I think it made second or third on my list last year, and the Kentish Spires is up there again this year. So it looks like you're getting, you're up there again for a second year running. So thanks for making the music that you're making and for agreeing to the chat.
Pleasure, Andrew. Lovely to speak with you.
You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast, or I should say you have been listening to it. My name's Andrew Mackay-Smith, and that was a conversation between myself and the wonderful vocalist who used to be in Thunderstick, now in the Kentish Spires. Her name, Lucie V. Thank you so much for listening.